People trapped under avalanches have a 15-minute window to survive. Professional rescue teams would take 45 minutes to get there. But there was one man at the ski resort who had already done the math, grabbed his gear, and was already moving. Because he'd learned in his past, every second meant life or death. Hello and welcome to The Last Stand. Do you enjoy mountaineering and skiing? Have you ever faced a dangerous situation? Let us know in the comments. Mark Sullivan had been working at Rocky Mountain Ski Resort for 5 years. He was 44 years old, tall and powerfully built. Most people knew him as an experienced mountain man. But Mark had other qualities too. When he came to his morning shift, the first thing he did was check weather reports, not just for that day, but 48-hour forecasts, wind speed, humidity levels, temperature changes. He noted every detail. Mark's daily routine was different from other employees. When checking the ski slopes, he didn't just look at snow quality, he also assessed areas at risk for avalanches. Other workers attributed this to experienced mountaineering. During breaks, Mark would check the locations of emergency equipment, snow probes, GPS devices, avalanche beacons. He made sure everything was in working order. Preparation is everything, he'd say with a smile. But nobody knew how serious this approach really was. His strangest habit was listening for helicopter sounds at the same time every day. He'd look up at the sky, trying to predict the direction of incoming sounds. His coworkers saw this as curiosity. But the expression on Mark's face was something much deeper than curiosity. Despite being 44 years old, Mark's physical condition was remarkable. He could carry heavy ski equipment alone and work at high altitude without getting out of breath. During lunch breaks, while other employees rested, Mark would do physical exercises, push-ups, sit-ups, endurance runs. To stay healthy, he'd say. But his movement style and exercise program was like professional training, and there was something else. Mark didn't experience fear of heights. He moved comfortably on even the most dangerous slopes, as if he'd spent his life in the air. On the morning of March 15th, Mark arrived early as usual. The weather reports were concerning. Overnight snowfall was 40 centimeters, wind speed 45 kilometers per hour. Avalanche risk was rated high. Mark spoke with resort manager Jim Richards. "We should close the upper slopes, Jim. Too risky under these conditions." Jim nodded. "You're right, Mark. Low visitor numbers today anyway. Only beginner and intermediate slopes stay open." But Mark wasn't comfortable. He knew experienced mountaineers sometimes didn't follow rules. His eyes were constantly on the upper slopes. At 12:30 p.m., Mark was on duty in the slope control tower. When scanning the upper areas with binoculars, something caught his attention. He could see 2 figures on the Silver Peak slope. "Jim," he called into his radio. "2 people on Silver Peak, in the closed area." Jim's voice came back. "You sure? That was closed this morning." "I'm sure. Probably backcountry skiers. We need to warn them." As Mark prepared to open his radio, a terrible sound was heard. Low frequency, rumbling sound, the sound of an avalanche. Mark immediately turned his binoculars to Silver Peak. A cloud of snow was rapidly descending the slope. It had completely covered the area where the 2 skiers were. "Jim, avalanche on Silver Peak, 2 people trapped underneath." The ski resort emergency sirens began wailing. All slopes were immediately evacuated. Customers were directed to lodge buildings. Jim came running. "I called rescue teams. They'll be here in 45 minutes. Mark was doing calculations in his mind. People trapped under avalanches had a 15-minute survival window. 45 minutes was too late. "Jim, 45 minutes is too late. I'm going." "Mark, are you crazy? You can't go into an avalanche zone alone." But Mark was already moving. He'd grabbed an avalanche beacon, snow probe, first aid kit, and radio from the emergency depot. "Mark, wait." Jim shouted. "Jim, every second matters. I'm going. Direct the rescue teams to me when they arrive." Mark started the snowmobile and sped toward the Silver Peak slope. Mark reached the avalanche area as weather conditions were rapidly deteriorating. Wind speed had increased to 60 kilometers per hour. New snow particles were hitting his face. Visibility had dropped to 20 meters. When the snowmobile reached the edge of the avalanche zone, it stopped. From here, he had to walk. He turned on his avalanche beacon. The device began picking up signals. 2 different frequencies, 2 people. The first signal was strong, but there was a problem. The location was at the edge of Silver Peak's cliff, a 200-meter vertical drop, and the risk of a second avalanche. Mark secured himself to the rocks with safety rope. The avalanche beacon showed him a signal 15 meters ahead, but with every step, cracking sounds came from under the snow. Using the snow probe, he determined a position 3 meters deep. But digging here was very risky. The snow mass above could fall into the ravine, taking him with it. Still, he had no other choice. He began digging with his hands. Every movement was calculated. If he dug too fast, he'd create vibrations and trigger a second avalanche. Too slow, and the person underneath would die. After 15 minutes, he reached the first skier, a young woman, Emily. She was conscious, but had a broken left leg and a dislocated shoulder. "Stay calm, Emily. I'm going to get you out." Emily started crying. "Jake. Where's Jake? The avalanche happened when he was trying to save me. It's my fault." "We'll find Jake. But first, I need to get you to a safe place." Mark moved Emily 50 meters back from the cliff edge using safety rope, but the storm had intensified. Wind at 80 kilometers per hour, temperature minus 20 degrees. He could tell hypothermia was setting in. "Emily, you need to move to stay warm. I'm going to find Jake." "No, don't leave me. I'm coming too." "Your leg is broken. You're staying here." Mark followed the second beacon signal. This one was much weaker, 6 meters deep, and even worse, right at the cliff edge. Mark secured himself to the rocks with safety ropes. Jake's position was very dangerous. 6 meters under snow, 2 meters from the cliff edge. When he started digging, snow kept spilling into the ravine. Every shovel full of snow shook the snow layer above Emily. At 2-meter depth, a terrible sound. Crack. The snow layer was cracking. Mark stopped. If he continued, there would be a second avalanche. But if he stopped, Jake would die. 45 minutes had already passed. Under normal circumstances, too late. Mark opened his radio. "Jim, situation critical. Jake is 6 meters deep, position very dangerous. If I continue digging, I might trigger a second avalanche." Jim's voice came. "Mark, come back. Too risky. Professional teams are on the way. Professional teams will arrive in 2 hours. Jake will be dead by then." Mark listened to his beacon. Jake's signal was getting weaker. Either the beacon's battery was dying or Jake was. At that moment, Emily started screaming, "Jake, we're going to save Jake." Mark made his decision. He continued digging. At 4 meters depth, Mark's gloved hand hit something, a ski boot, Jake's leg. While quickly digging around it, he reached Jake's face. His eyes were closed, lips blue. But he was breathing. Very little, but breathing. "Jake. Jake, can you hear me?" Jake barely opened his eyes. His voice was like a whisper. "Emily. Is Emily safe?" "She's safe. Now I'm getting you out." "No, too late. I can't feel my legs. You'll kill yourself too." Mark checked Jake's pulse at his neck. Weak, but steady. "Jake, listen to me. I was Air Force Pararescue. I did this job for 12 years. I'm getting you out of here." Jake's eyes widened. "Pararescue. Is that real?" "Real. And there's a motto, that others may live. You're going to live." Mark's problem was getting Jake up. Lifting a person from 6 meters depth alone was nearly impossible, especially with storm and avalanche risk. At that moment, Emily's voice came from above. "Mark, I'm throwing rope." Emily had crawled over despite her broken leg and thrown the safety rope to the edge of the avalanche pit. Mark tied the rope around Jake's chest. "Jake, this is going to hurt a lot, but I'm going to pull you up. Tell Emily I love her." "You'll tell her yourself." Using a pulley system, Mark began pulling Jake up centimeter by centimeter. Every movement was painful. After 20 minutes, Jake emerged at the snow surface. All three were at snow surface, but the storm had now reached deadly proportions. Wind at 100 kilometers per hour, visibility 5 meters. Going down with the snowmobile was impossible. Mark set up an emergency tent. "We'll wait for morning here." Emily and Jake were going into hypothermia. Mark opened heat packs and began warming them with his own body heat. Throughout the night, Jake passed out several times. Mark constantly checked his pulse and performed artificial respiration. At 6:00 a.m., when the storm calmed, Mark opened his radio. "Jim, we're alive. Coordinates at this position. Need medevac." When the rescue helicopter arrived, Mark was still treating Jake. He hadn't slept for 14 hours, constantly monitoring Emily and Jake's vital signs. Paramedic Tom Anderson was surprised by what he saw when he got off the helicopter. How is this possible? They survived 14 hours in an avalanche zone, and both are in stable condition. Jim approached Tom. "Mark Sullivan did it. He rescued both of them alone." Tom examined Mark's treatment. "This isn't standard first aid. This is advanced life support and avalanche rescue techniques. This is professional level." Mark could barely stand from exhaustion. What matters is saving lives. That evening, Tom found Mark. "You saved lives today. I deserve to know who you really are." Mark thought for a long time, then answered, "Air Force Pararescue. I served 12 years. Tom's mouth dropped open. Pararescue was the Air Force's most elite unit. The unit that operated with the motto, "That others may live," carrying out the most difficult rescue operations. How many missions? 127 rescue missions, 394 lives. Why did you leave? Mark's face changed. "On my last mission, something went wrong." "What happened?" "Afghanistan rescue mission. Mountainous region, bad weather conditions. We had to rescue 6 people from a downed helicopter." Mark stopped, staring into the distance. "We saved 5. The 6th, the pilot, I couldn't save him." Tom understood. Survivor's guilt. "I searched for 3 days. Weather got worse. Team had to withdraw. But I didn't want to give up. That pilot was my friend's brother. After leaving the military, I was lost. I thought I couldn't save anyone. I came to the mountains, looking for silence. But today you saved 2 lives." Mark smiled. "Yes, maybe the 'that others may live' motto never left me." Tom extended his hand. "You did amazing work today, Mark. You're a real hero." "No," Mark said. "I'm just someone who was ready." The following week, an unexpected visitor came to the ski resort. Colonel Sarah Mitchell from Peterson Air Force Base. "I'm looking for Mark Sullivan." When Mark saw her, he straightened up, old habits returning. "Colonel, Sergeant Sullivan, we heard about the rescue operation you performed. The pararescue community is proud of you." Mark was surprised. "Ma'am? You served 12 years. You saved 394 lives. Sadness from one final mission doesn't erase all your achievements." The colonel handed him a file. "Training coordinator position for pararescue unit, if you're interested." Stories like this resonate with you. Don't forget to subscribe to the Last Stand channel. We'll continue bringing you more hero stories every day. Mark Sullivan still works at Rocky Mountain Ski Resort today. But he's not just a ski resort employee anymore. He also serves as a pararescue reservist, and he still looks up at the sky every day. Because he knows that somewhere in that sky, someone might need him. That others may live. This isn't just a motto, it's a way of life.